Excuse me, Mr. Sharp-wit, professional monster slayer?
Yes, indeed, I am Sharp-wit, ma'am. I deal with the problems that are beyond the competency of the Royal Guards.
Ugh, that competency is the very reason I'm even here. I'm Aramau, Commander Firebrand's secretary. I help him running the base. A few weeks ago, some of the Royal Guard had an accident, which resulted in one of the basements being completely flooded with water from the cesspool. Recently, however, when we wanted to clean up this mess, we've noticed that something probably now inhabits this area. Something big, smelly, slimy, and with a lot of tentacles.
Did any of the base staff happen to throw things there, like unfinished meal, biological trashes, or something like that?
Unfortunately, yes. Some of the guard there had a brilliant idea to dump their food into that basement, before they eventually threw the cook to the soup as well. Granted, he was terrible, but why is that important?
Because it sounds to me like you have a Zugul there, and from the looks of it, it grew pretty large, making dealing with it quite difficult. I'm surprised nobody went missing in there.
That I wouldn't put my money on. Anyways, how is it going to be? Will you help me dealing with this Zugul thing or not?
I will, but unfortunately I have a lot of other calls for monster problems, so my schedule is full. On top of that, I'm trying to convince others that what happened in Friendship School and the whole EEA guidelines are not actually that much exaggerated.
I know, right? As someone who has experience in teaching and the educational system in my country, I know how this works, and I could say a word or two about this whole situation as well, and how I feel about it, and why are you looking at me like that?
Miss Aramau, I think I might be able to make some reschedules to take this job immediately, and even charge less for it, which shall please base accountants. That under one condition.
Wonderful. And what's this condition? Hey!
You'll do a collab on school days with me.
The School of Friendship is for all of us, a place where we belong, where we all learn to share and trust. The only rule here is to find your way, and friendship always wins at the end of the day.
Another season, another premiere without any big conflict and major villain. It's still an interesting trend when looking back before season 5, which pretty much started it, because it's not necessarily a bad thing by itself. However, as we've seen, the results tend to be mixed. But will this premiere be the better one? I think it might have a pretty good chance.
From a story, character, and launchpad into a new set of conflict standpoint, School Days does an outstanding job. The school setup gives us a logical reason to introduce new, younger characters to the cast. We get to explore new cultures and see how xenophobic ponies really are.
Our heroes are mildly racist, go figure.
And the further development of established characters is always welcome. However, from a practical, real-world standpoint, I have some issues with this one.
Though let's maybe start from the beginning, which is the revelation that the map got bigger by the places the main six visited in the movie. Can we actually appreciate the fact for a moment? The fact of the show directly admitting the movie is canon, something it was never done with Equestrian Girls, which I still have a problem with for not making direct reference to last season finale, and it still was kinda. Meanwhile, with the movie, everyone are bringing back what happened there, as well as gave us some lore-friendly explanation why we likely won't see Tempest anytime soon. Little thing, but it brings joy.
Fair enough. So we start off with Twilight wanting to build a school for friendship, which already I have a problem.
We are literally not even 2 minutes in. How are you doing that?
Well, think about it. Twilight, the recovering reclusive bookworm who refused friendship until she got in with a certain magical group of friends, is assuming that none of the kids in Equestria, pony or otherwise, knows how to be friends with each other. Even though friendship has existed for millennia before her, not to mention the fact that smaller children almost instinctively know how to make friends.
Yeah, in preschool. Basically you just go, your shirt is cool. Thanks, want some of my cookies? Okay. Bam, you're friends.
But what Twilight is assuming here is that 1. No one in Equestria other than her and her friends have the experience and expertise to share the values of friendship. 2. No one else in Equestria knows how to be friends like they do. And 3. Especially the other species living in Equestria. They are all a bunch of friendshipless hicks.
Well, in certain cases we've seen that's true. Look at the griffins and the dragons.
Should a few isolated incidents speak for an entire species?
Yeah, no, that is like the definition of racism.
Let's go back to Dragon Quest. Garble and the other teenage dragons were clearly friends of a sort. It may not have been the kind of friendship sanctioned and given this pony stamp of approval, but they stuck up for each other, they enjoyed each other's company, and they had fun together. That's still friendship. And Gilda was Rainbow's friend when they were little. Actual friends, according to Griffin the Brush-Off. So just widespread sweeping of the other races and even other ponies saying, "We have to teach the world about something that is pretty much obvious to anyone old enough to think cognitively," is pretty dang insulting.
True, although this could be thought shortcut of some sort. To be fair with dragons, even Ember herself stated that dragons don't do friends, barking Gauntlet of Fire. With Garble's group, I always saw them as more of a pack led by Alpha Bully, we often see in schools. Sort of strong personality leading others. Groups like this are not quite friends. As for Gilda, she is the isolated incident along with Gabby. As we saw ever since Lost Treasure of Griffinstone, pretty much the rest of the species cares only for the tip of their beak. There are also changelings who pretty recently got reformed and might still have a need to learn about friendship. In all of those cases, there is a shared element. All of them are still grasping the concept of friendship. The only exception likely could be hippogriffs, which have functioning societies similar to ponies. And the yaks, but nobody cares about yaks.
I care about yaks! Yona Fan Club, right here.
One pony cares about yaks. Although you're right about that. Yona is precious. Can we keep her?
Regardless, a school for friendship, despite its good intentions, just sort of rubs me the wrong way a bit. I accept your counter-arguments, but I maintain my stance to a point. I kind of think friendship can't be taught because of how different everyone is. Some friends get together and talk about the deepest parts of their souls. Some just send each other memes. Some friends you take care of, some take care of you. Friendships are unique. They're not like math with one simple answer every time. I mean, even Facebook realizes it. They said that there are billions of friendships, but only one like yours.
I'll get to that later. Moving onward, right away Twilight is facing a main problem of how to approach the topic of running the school, and so she goes to probably the most reliable source of information, Celestia herself. I'm taking my guess that Firebrand was pretty happy about that fact.
I couldn't get him to reform from where he melted for 2 days, so yes.
Anyways, from here we are introduced to Equestrian education system that even Princess herself had to follow when running her school for gifted unicorns. Along goes pretty big rulebook and the introduction of the head of EEA, Chancellor Daze, or how I like to call him, Chancellor Say. Yeah, I don't like the guy, however here he doesn't seem to be that bad, just strict, and for some right reason. This book is not far from reality. Teachers really have to follow a lot of rules and guidelines. Some of the rules are very strict, some tend to be even questioned by teachers themselves, but they still need to keep following them. Otherwise, first inspection means problems for not only said teacher, but for the whole school. And I'm speaking as a brother of an active teacher and son of a retired teacher and principal.
And I, as the granddaughter of a university vice president, the daughter of a teacher for 30 years and a special education administrator, and as an educator herself, can attest that if you do not follow these rules, and laws in some cases, the entire school could be in jeopardy. The school could lose its accreditation or even be shut down, thereby costing dozens of jobs, stunting the education of hundreds to thousands of students, and costing the state or local government millions to fix. I have been present when schools have nearly lost their accreditation and have had to spend an entire year not only bolstering test scores, but writing a novel-length report covering every single aspect of school life with contribution from each department head and even some members of the student body. But I'll get to that more later.
So yeah, if you think this rulebook is somehow impossible, you are very wrong. Still, after some short exchange of arguments and presenting the plan, Twilight School got the accreditation and she can now begin inviting students from there. I wonder how much time have passed since then. The building is actually quite impressive and a bit more cozy than Castle. Anyways, naturally most of the basics are nervous about their new role as friendship teachers, for which I can't blame them. But there's not much time for that as the new students have finally arrived and we are now introduced to another group of 6 characters. Now let's play the game of which student fits which main 6. We have Sandbar, the only pony in the group, slightly awkward but still likable. Then there is Gallus the Griffin, kind of a hipster type, and is it just me or is his color scheme reminds too much of a Wonderbolt uniform? Next we have Smolder, typical too cool for anything type, And shortly after, we have reformed changeling Ocelus, aka yet another Season 1 Fluttershy clone.
And when we have my wee little baby Yona, mine.
And there is Hippogriff Silverstream, news of Queen Novo. What's with this family that every relative of Queen is hyperactive yet she's rather stoic? Some might even say that Silverstream is introduced because we can't have Skystar in the show, but I'm not touching that.
The leaders of the respective species surrender their child to the school while expressing a genuine concern. These students are all very different and are going to the school because they don't understand friendship. This is a possibly very hostile undertaking that they are allowing their children to be a part of, and I understand the overprotectiveness completely, especially since the headmistress and the teachers have no credentials or formal training or... Later. I'll get to that later.
That makes two of us. And we might not have to wait long as we there move to a musical number, which surprisingly is actually fine and it serves a purpose, as it is a shortcut to show the progression of the school, how things were going and how it started as a normal school, but later became a place where students were enjoying their time and were more than happy to attempt to every lesson. Everything was going pretty well, until Twilight came in saying, "No, you have to do your classes by the book," thus effectively killing all the enjoyment student had, as well as making her friends rather stressed about the fact that they really had no idea what to do.
While Twilight's insistence on adhering to the EEA rules strictly makes sense, modern teaching methods have found ways to incorporate both the standards and fun into their curriculum. It's not always successful, but with creativity, teachers can instill a love of learning even while following the rules laid down by politicians pretending they know what's best for students so their test scores can match up against other states and countries.
You're not bitter, are you?
Nope!
Okay. Anyways, of course Twilight, despite hearing the concerns of her friends, still thinks following the rule will eventually result in full success. And there are two possible arguments here. On one hand, this is Twilight we are talking about. She's the type of character who always follows the rules and guidelines, even if she is aware it doesn't make sense, as we've seen back in Applejack's Day Off. And remember what was one of her first questions she asked after becoming an alicorn? She asked if there is a book about being a princess. So it's natural for a character like her to believe in a system that has been working for ages. But here comes the counter-argument. The EEA guidelines works, true, but for the normal school. As you've mentioned before, friendship is not a subject you can make a pop quiz of. School of Friendship is not a school in traditional definition of this word, rather it's a place where you can learn more about social interactions. By that, it doesn't fit in traditional educational system. And that also brings another counter-argument of Twilight not having a good comparison, as this place is first in Equestrian history, so her following EA guidelines was destined to be a failure.
Modern education system setting up for failure. No, that's too easy. So despite trying their best, the main six plus Starlight soon realized that the school isn't quite working how they'd like, and the students, especially the exchange students, aren't getting along, despite this being a school for friendship. It's almost like trying to teach an instinctual survival tactic is a little tricky. I must mention, however, that I quite enjoy the new Super Six. You have 2 Rainbow Dashes, Pinkie Pie, a Fluttershy Twilight hybrid, Applejack, and a Yona. Yona has no comparison because Yona is precious! My heart!
I think you might need a medic for that, or something snuggable. That is a serious case of cuteness adorabilities.
Luckily, I'm dating the medic.
Ain't that convenient? Anyways, eventually after yet another boring day, students decided to actually skip classes to have some fun anywhere but the school, before Friends and Family Day. It's actually pretty much the first time when they all agree on something and even work to reach that goal. Though mostly Ocelus with her impersonating Rarity, which surprisingly worked.
Yona is my favorite newbie, but Ocelus is a close second. She has the best parts of Fluttershy and Twilight without the extreme problems with the two.
Yeah, you have to give her props for quick thinking and talent to improvise. That was enough to convince Fluttershy to let the students go. And right when Chancellor Say arrives in actually quite neat way for his inspection. Yeah, I don't know how it works where you live, but where I'm from, inspections like this are usually set or something.
Usually, inspectors notify the school months in advance so they can prepare the huge reports and prep the teachers and grounds. I mean, there will always be some things you can't control on inspection day. You are in charge of little humans, they are unpredictable, same with technology functioning correctly. But the school under inspection usually has quite a bit of time to prepare and has a modicum of control over how the inspection goes through preparation and foreknowledge.
So it's pretty much quite similar everywhere, which makes Chancellor's inspection quite unfortunate even without students skipping class. Although it actually has some positive effect on them actually starting to bond together. Exactly what Twilight was saying in that scene. Too bad it resulted in them crashing the Friends and Family Day celebration quite badly, along with a small part of the school construction. This is also pretty much the moment which defined Say as the character I hate with burning passion. Okay, I can go behind with unqualified teachers and students skipping classes and having discipline issues. However, the real problem is how he went against all other races in the most racist and speciesist way possible for MLP, threatening them as all they do is plan invasion and conquer of Equestria. Sure, some of them were hostile in the past, mostly yaks thanks to Twilight, dragons before ever became a dragon lord, or changelings before Reformation. But here is a problem. You know what is the easiest way to cause war? Attitude like this. History knows the cases where this was the cause of conflicts on a big scale. So not only Chancellor is a massive racist prick, something that really triggers me, but could easily be the source of the war he thinks was protecting Equestria from.
I genuinely don't understand his logic of opposing the school based on grounds of race. Wouldn't a school of friendship, a school designed to promote peace, harmony, and kindness, actually be a good place to send students of conflicting countries? They are meeting under peaceful circumstances under neutral ground. Heck, a school promoting these virtues would be great for any students, so why the big grouch fest? Again, I completely understand about unqualified teachers, but that was Twilight's bad. But every school is going to have discipline problems. Schools are full of kids. Even adults have discipline problems. And honestly, his attitude toward the other species should be in violation of pretty much every civil rights law I can think of. So why does he still have his job? He just gave a school that teaches essential life skills sanctioned by 2 members of Equestrian royalty the shaft because of his own racial biases. Bravo, Chancellor, you'd be so fired.
I see it's not just me who would punch him in the face rather than saying, "Good day, sir."
Punching is too good for him. He deserves no form of physical contact and no love ever. I do not tolerate discrimination of any sort, and I'm glad that, even though he closes the school, Twilight wants to still push forward for diversity anyways. Even if it does take some sense being kicked into her skull by Starlight. I do wonder if her desire to reopen the school is completely selfless, wanting to promote peace through diversity rather than just make up for the fact that she failed at something, but I'll let that go.
This could probably be one of those moments that many are picking on her. The fact she is trying to define herself by her princess status. Good example is when we see her during probably the biggest breakdown of her, or close second to Lesson 0. That's where she went again with, "I'm the princess of friendship, I should only make friends, instead I caused war with other races," even though it was Say who almost caused wars. So if she still operates on this kind of logic, I think to some degree there is always a selfish desire to match her status as princess of friendship. Which I'm not sure if that's a good idea, since we all know that Princess Celestia isn't just raising the sun as her title says. Every princess is more than that, and it's something that I think Twilight should finally learn.
I think it's also incredible that Starlight was the one to hammer this in. She has advanced more in friendship and common sense than perhaps even Twilight has in a shorter period of time. And when she knocks some sense into Twilight's head, it's so satisfying. You smacked that book, honey!
Oh yeah, in that moment I had one giant grin of satisfaction on my face. Some people obviously have a problem with this, and not just Starlight haters. However, I believe that those who learned on their big mistakes remember their lessons better. I know because in that regard I'm similar to Starlight and why I emphasize with her so much. We both made mistakes, but the fact it gives us chance to get better, to improve ourselves, allowed us to know better to never repeat it again and sometimes prevent others. Another thing is, that is also the type of character she is. Starlight is to the point, sometimes by tough love. Something that is always a way to lift someone's spirit. Not by attempt to cheer up, but straightforward naming the problem without sugarcoating. If you know when it's needed and when it won't make things worse, it can be the best solution.
Keep in mind, the book smacking is a good idea from a character standpoint. Not a real-life logical one regarding rules, laws, and regulations, but we'll get to that later. So the leaders confront Twilight when they discover that their charges have gone missing. That's fair, talk to the pony in charge, but don't threaten war over it. In case you hadn't noticed, the school that she was in charge of was shut down. thereby relinquishing responsibility of the children back to their guardians, aka you guys. So blaming her and making her responsible for making interspecies peace isn't 100% fair. Maybe 50-50.
Yeah, believe me, I heard stories about parents like this many times from my sister. But this scene also highlights why Chancellor Say is easily the most despised character in MOP. As a result of his actions, students went missing, which almost ended up with interspecies conflict that could destroy all of them. And here I ask, why is this racist prick still in charge of anything? Dear Princess Celestia, you have the highest authority in all of Equestria. Get rid of him as the head of EEA and hire someone more open-minded who won't cause war.
Also, he's an educator that directly insults and incites hostile feelings between students and between nations that already don't 100% get along. How is he still employed? If a teacher was that racist here, they'd be terminated faster than you could say civil rights. Unless they have tenure. Then they'd resign after public outcry.
So the students end up camping out at the castle of Two Sisters and they seem to be getting along. Until Pakwajis start attacking them and their teachers come and rescue them. Except Verdi, what are you doing? Also, are those creatures are supposed to be an incarnation of Bosch wolves from G1? Or maybe it's a bit more colorful and kid-friendly version of creatures from the 86 movie Critters.
No, kill them with fire!
I definitely should not have shown her that picture, now Firebrand is going to be out for my blood. Luckily, Pakwajis are still dangerous, but nowhere near as dangerous as those things, so the teachers deal with them pretty fast and with not much of a problem. Good thing Everfree Forest is still somehow a threat, given that since Season 1 it lost its status significantly. Rightly after their rescue, they offer the students a chance to go back to school, this time promising it to be more entertaining and beneficial than before. To which they agree quickly, because it's the only way they can stay together now their hideout is known.
It also probably didn't hurt that Pinky let it slip that their nations were going to war if they didn't come back. Smart kids. Go instill world peace. They all return, Twilight breaks the lock, Naysay shows up to be an ultra-racist douche again, and Twilight says, okay, you have rules, but we're not going to follow them, so yeah. And while this is a great moral victory, you know, spreading friendship, fight the man, and whatnot, in reality, not being accredited actually hurts more than it helps. Accreditation is used for more than just a sticker on your diploma. It proves that your institution is a legitimate school that is eligible for universities and follows international standards. Yes, accreditation, how it stands now where I live, means that it follows standards set by the Office of Overseas Schools under the U.S. Department of State, and it works with schools from other countries. This way, there's an assurance that the schools are teaching at a basic level that can be understood no matter where a child transfers to, and that the education that they are receiving is valid and accepted into any university they might try to go to. If your school is unaccredited, it is nearly impossible to further your education at a university and even some trade schools.
Then again, even if this place is called a school, it's not exactly a school. We go back to one of the earlier arguments that you can't exactly do a pop quiz of friendship. So this place is more like a place where you can learn more about social interactions as well as different cultures by interacting with the representatives of said culture. So I believe education system doesn't work with it. And given it's the first place like this in Equestria, it's even more obvious it can't and won't work with traditional system, but it needs its own. That however also means it's likely gonna need a lot of improvements and tweaks. First version of anything, it's never perfect and always needs improvements.
I concur, however, one must play devil's advocate from time to time. Though I will never condone Naysay's actions and bigoted attitude. I know he's supposed to be a one-dimensional villain, but he is kind of despicable. And
this is why Celestia's burn with bringing back the story of Three-Pony Tribes is much satisfying. Even though nothing reached his thick head and likely we'll see him again, her argument is actually on point. Before founding Equestria, everyone were saying ponies of different tribes can't work and live together, yet here we are. If this could work with them, with different ponies with different customs and traditions, why can't it work with other races to get together closer, establish peaceful contacts and coexist with each other? Maybe if her system is likely still not perfect, Twilight is doing a noble thing. And this time actually much better than when she tried to make friends with Yax, because she's trying to instill that trust in the future generations as well.
Then we get the closing song, people are happy, Yona gets her braids fixed, and there's a school photo that became a lot of people's new desktop background. Final thoughts, Sharp?
Well, I quite like it. Even though it's yet again not a classic opener as we know from before season 6, it's also something in between a slice of life and a big conflict, at least in a way. I admit, some aspects of the whole school idea can be a hit or miss. But if we look at the bigger picture, it's something really great, something done for the greater good. As much as Twilight messed up initially, we can explain she tried something new, thus she was prone to make a big mistake.
As for me, while I did find any point where they tried to make misdirected commentaries on the education system frustrating and annoying, I enjoyed it for the most part. Especially Yona, she's my new favorite babu. The new students are interesting, seeing the main 6 all struggle at once is an interesting development, and I agree with their mission, if not the execution. But Yona and Ocellus were the 2 highlights for me, and I will totally accept any and all offers to get me a Yona plushie, as long as it's big enough to snuggle.
I too look forward to see what this season will bring for students. Certainly they made a much better first impression than their races in general when first introduced. And much better than Chancellor say. I despise him so much. But hey, he also makes this episode more enjoyable. But what are your thoughts? How do you like the concept of friendship school? Hit or miss? Do you like Student 6? And most importantly, do you like this episode in general? Let us know in the comments. I'm Sharpwit.
And I'm Aramau, the Fiery Secretary. So, now that we're done with this review, I believe we can now head to the base.
Well...
What? You want to renegotiate the conditions?
Actually, I was hoping we could take a small detour to maybe visit Chancellor Naysay and, let's say, give him a piece of our mind.
I get his spine.
As long as I can call dibs on his skull, I'm okay with it.